This is a quick discussion about elementary row operations. It's the basic mechanical thing you do in linear algebra to solve systems of equations once you've taken that system and put it into its matrix form.
And that augmented matrix looks like A with a line and then a B. So A is your big matrix with always the order is in rows and then columns. The rows represent how many equations you have in your system, and then the columns represent how many unknowns there are, or how many different variables there are, x, y, z, w, v. So you set up your equations and your unknowns. That's your matrix, usually called A. Then there's a little line, and then you augment it with the solutions from those equations, and that's your lowercase b. The term elementary in elementary row operations does not mean elementary like in elementary school. It means element-wise. So you add the x's, you add the y's, you add the z's. There's only 3 elementary row operations. One of them is scaling a row, and that means you multiply by a constant. So what that looks like, if I'm scaling row 1, it looks like the constant times row 1. Another thing that I can do is I can scale a row and then add it to another. Maybe I scale row 1, then I add it to row 2. If I'm scaling by a number that's negative, it's the same idea as subtracting. And then the last thing I can do is swap rows. So the goal of the elementary row operations is to get to what's called row echelon form. And that looks like an upper triangular matrix. So up here there'll be numbers and stuff, and then these will just be blank, and then you'll have your B vector where you're working on your solutions. From that we can do what's called backward substitution, or we can go all the way to what's called reduced row echelon form, where you see the identity matrix, which is 1s on the diagonal, then 0s everywhere else, and the B vector becomes your solution set. And if you want to see an example of taking a system of equations and going all the way to reduced row echelon form, then just watch part 2 of this video called ERO examples.